All right, welcome back. My name is John. I'm the Director of Education here at Edmonds. Today we're talking pumpkin pie more specifically. So one of the greatest things about pumpkin pie is it can be done ahead of time. So this is a great do-ahead thing that we can do the day before, even 2 days before, and really get it going. So what we're going to do is start by making pie dough. And pie dough is very simple. It goes with a 3-2-1 ratio. So 3 parts flour, 2 parts fat, 1 part liquid. Basic setup is ice water, flour, butter. There's different types of fat we could use though that will lead to different types of crust. We prefer butter, it tends to give more flavor, give it a little flakier crust. You can also use shortening, lard, or oil. Either one or any of them work really well, but it just depends how much you want. So what we're going to do is start by making a simple dough. So we have to take the butter and it has to be ice cold. The reason is you don't want it to melt. You want little droplets of butter in there so when the dough bakes, it expands and gets nice and flaky. So we're making a single recipe, enough for a 9-inch pan. That's what I have here. 12 ounces of flour, 8 ounces of butter, and 4 ounces of ice water. I'm going to start by cutting in the butter. So first thing I'm going to do is cut it up into kind of bite-sized pieces. And we want to do this so it's easier to cut in. Again, make sure it's ice cold. And then we're going to slowly cut this into the flour. Additionally, we are making a sweet dough, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and a teaspoon of salt. To go along with my 4 ounces of ice water. So I'm going to put the butter in here. I'm going to add my flour right on top, my sugar, and my salt. Now, easiest way to do this, take your hands and crumble it up quickly, and you want it to look like wet sand. You can also use a cutter here and do the same thing. Looking for a wet sand consistency. And you can see what I mean when it's there. Little pebbles worth of butter throughout the flour. And again, this dough could be done a day, even 2 days ahead of time. And ideally, it's going to rest at least overnight, just to make sure that it stays nice and chilled and that the butter is fully incorporated in the flour itself. So you can see here, it has this beautiful kind of sandy texture. And the other thing is when we add the water, we're not going to add it all at once because depending on the moisture and the humidity in the air, you might need more or less water. Here we go. Got my flour and butter all incorporated. See it here? It has a consistency of sand, almost packs like sand. You can see it there. It's really looks like sand. So now we take our cold water. I'm gonna add a little at first, just to start incorporating it. And then I'm gonna dump it out here on the board, just like this. And slowly start incorporating it. We're looking for a pretty dry dough. I'm gonna add a little more water as I go. You can see it's just slowly start to come together. And if it's still too dry, not coming together, just add a touch more water to it. I think we're almost there. Much more. It's not the cleanest job, but you get a beautiful pie dough on this. And then you're going to want to wrap this up once you get a nice consistency here and stick it in your fridge. As I said, at least an hour, preferably overnight. You can see as I work it a little bit, the dough becomes nice and soft and pliable. You can still see little bits of butter throughout it. There you go. Get a beautiful dough ball there. Enough for at least 1 9-inch pie. Might be able to get 2 out of it. So take this. Wrap a little plastic wrap. And this goes into our fridge at least an hour, preferably overnight. So through the magic of TV here, we have a pie dough we made yesterday. You can see it's nice, firm, cold. And what we need to do is add just a bit of flour to our surface. And we're going to roll it out. And we're going to blind bake it. So because the filling for this is going to take just a little bit of time, maybe 15 to 20 minutes to cook, we want to make sure that the dough is cooked ahead of time so that it stays nice and crisp and doesn't get soggy when you put the wet filling inside of it. So again, floured surface, we're just going to roll it out. It's going to be very hard at first because you have those nice pieces of butter throughout it. Just going to work it out and roll into a nice, about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch thick. While I'm doing this, I'm going to preheat my oven to 350. And you see here, I'm kind of flipping and rotating every time. Great thing about this dough is, as well, if it falls apart or cracks, tear off a little piece and fill the crack. All right, there we go. So now I have my 9-inch pie round. I'm going to with just a little bit of nonstick baker spray. And I'm going to take the dough right into the pan there. And I'm going to push it in, make sure it hits all those edges. And then I want a little overload because what's going to happen is as it cooks, it's going to shrink up a little bit. So I'm going to cut around the outside, leave it about a 1/2 inch overlap on the outside. And again, one of the key things here is you want to make sure you work quickly because you want the dough to remain cold because you don't want the butter to start melting. So blind bake is a great thing to do for pie dough like this because what you're going to do is get a nice flaky crust, yet the pie itself will be nice and moist. So I'm just pushing it in, wrapping it slightly around the outside of the lip here. And then I'm just going to what's called dock it and just put a couple holes in the base here just to make sure it doesn't puff up, even though I'm going to have weights in it. Now I take a little bit of aluminum foil. Right in the pan. I have some just regular old beans in here. Press it down, make sure it's nice and sealed. And this is going to go into my oven at 350 for about 15 minutes. You might want to, we'll take a look and see how it looks. But we'll take the weights off about 15 minutes in and brown the pie up a little bit. All right. Extra dough we could use to cut decorations like maple leaves, anything like that to go right on top of the pie. Clean up here, and we're gonna make the filling for the pie now. So let's talk pumpkin pie filling. So the first thing we need to know is what kind of pumpkin to use. So 3 options you have here. We could use whole pumpkins that we carve, cut, take the seeds out and roast. We can use pumpkin puree, which is that pumpkin typically canned, done ahead of time, roasted, and made into a puree. Or we can use a pumpkin pie filling. Now, the problem with pumpkin pie filling is it has all the good stuff in it, all right? But you have no control over what's in it. What we tend to do here at the bakery is make our own pie filling. So we had some pumpkins. These are some of them from our garden at Grafton Prison. We cut them in half, took the seeds out, a little bit of olive oil, salt, pepper, and roasted them at 350 for about an hour and a half. Take it out, and then puree it, and here we have our homemade pumpkin puree. So in a mixing bowl, I'm going to add my pumpkin puree. Three egg yolks. Egg yolks are going to help kind of bind it together. 1 whole egg. Half a cup of sugar. 1/4 cup of light brown sugar. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. 1/8 teaspoon of clove. 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then a scant amount, 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper. The black pepper is going to add this kind of interesting undertone and spice that you're kind of curious what it is. And it just jumps out and hits you. Last but not least, 10 ounces of evaporated milk. pour this in here. Find it all together. To be a relatively loose mixture, almost the consistency of like a thicker waffle batter. Make sure you incorporate all the egg and everything else into it. And then here we have a pie dough we blind baked earlier. So you see it has a nice, just semi-golden brown color to it. And pour the filling in. And this is going to go in the oven at 350 for about 30 minutes or until toothpicks be inserted and come out clean.